Being part of the ISV Connect program helps our visibility with Microsoft sellers, which in turn helps us when we're introduced to new partners.
It has accelerated our entrance into new markets, and our product is developing with higher quality and at higher speed than it would otherwise have.
Things like ISV licensing, handling our licenses just like any Microsoft first-party applications. We see that as a big benefit.
What ISV Connect program introduced is very different level of confidence with our customer. And with the Microsoft expanding the program, we are expecting to grow our ISV portfolio significantly.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Brian Galicia. I lead our Global Dynamics ISV business here at Microsoft. And it's an honor and pleasure to have all of you joining potentially live or watching the replay. Before we get started, I do want to acknowledge today is a kind of a historical day. So in the US, for those of you who aren't aware, we acknowledge Juneteenth as a huge opportunity to celebrate freedom. For those of you who don't have the history or the background, this was the official end of slavery back in Gainesville, Texas. And I do want to acknowledge the fact that this is a day to reflect on freedom, the history, promoting equality, and our continued work in how we treat everyone equally and create that freedom. So thank you for making the time. If you're actually enjoying a holiday today, or just, again, you come across this, truly appreciate you making the time. So these conversations we have with this ISV Connect Live series is really an opportunity to have a conversation with amazing ISVs, and proMX is no different. So I'm fortunately grateful to have Peter, who's the CEO of proMX, on the call with me. And before we get to him and start the dialogue, a couple quick housekeeping items for people to be aware of. One is we'd love to hear where you're watching from. So maybe you're doing this series from Germany, where Peter is currently located. Maybe you're doing it from Seattle, Washington, where I'm currently based, or you're doing it somewhere in EMEA or Europe, or somewhere in the America time zones, or somewhere in Asia. Thank you for making the time. So if you want to type in the LinkedIn comment window where you're watching from, we'd love to do a quick shout out at the beginning and acknowledge that you are actually live with us. And the second is that during the conversation, if there's something that Peter and I are talking about that you actually have a question, feel free to also type that in the window. And if there's time at the end, I can ask Peter the live question and acknowledge, and hopefully he can address it in real time if you do have a question about the conversation that we're having. And then finally, as we're having the dialogue, if you enjoy the conversation or something really resonates with you, feel free to engage in the conversation by using like, support, etc., because that gives us acknowledgement that the information is resonating. So without further ado, Peter, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day to talk about the amazing innovation in IP with proMX, and talk a little bit about your organization and the solutions you provide. So to get started, why don't you talk a little bit about your role as the CEO of proMX? And then my favorite question is an icebreaker for people to get to know you. What's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing?
I think there are a lot of things not, but first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm very happy to see you again, Brian, from our last, I think, 6 weeks ago, we saw us in person. So, and one of the things which are maybe not on my LinkedIn profile, maybe you can find it somewhere else in the world and other social media channels also. But I think what is not on my LinkedIn profile is that I'm a diver. And so from that point, it is one of my favorite things, which I'm normally not put to my LinkedIn.
I love it. I love it. And so give it a little bit of role of what you do in your organization. And then what is that? I'm going to do a follow-up question. What's your favorite diving spot? Like you think about all the places in the world that you've dived.
Should I start with a diving spot, or should I go with a pro? I think.
Oh no, I think you do a fun one. Since we're talking about diving, maybe we could just talk about where's your favorite diving spot?
Also, I like to go to the Red Sea, to Egypt, especially to Safaga on the one hand, and also I go very often to Kenya for diving. So that is, I think, my lovely spots where I'm going.
I love it. I love it. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what is your role, like your day-to-day role as the leader of proMX?
proMX. Yeah, I am one of the founders. So we found the company in 2000, and nowadays I am the CEO of the proMX group. So I'm leading the business in Germany as well as in US, in Canada, and in India. Well, by the way, I have some other CEOs, local CEOs in the countries, but I'm the head of the group.
I love it. Thank you, Peter. And then I want to acknowledge, for some reason, I can't today, maybe it's a kind of a weird day, but today I'm seeing people joining live and acknowledging where they're watching from. And I apologize. For some reason, it's not showing up. So I can't show your actual face live, but I am just going to verbally thank you for joining. So Jonas, thank you for the time from Germany. Tatiana from another person watching from Germany. And then Jeff making the time from the US, actually in Connecticut. So again, keep them coming. I will see them because I'm just looking down on my mobile device to see the live stream as well. And so if there's questions that you want to ask or other people watching live, feel free to do so. So Peter, why don't you talk about the next question I always love to ask is, why don't you talk a little bit about what are the business outcomes that proMX provides? And so you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit because there's been various events that you participated in. I do want to acknowledge the fact that proMX is Inner Circle. So for those of you who don't recognize what that means, that is the top of our Dynamics partners in our ecosystem that just do a lot for our business. And so proMX is one of those special ISVs that are part of that. And also Peter spends his time, taking his time graciously to share insight via our partner advisory council. So giving us insight into how we can make our partnerships and our ecosystem better. So maybe describe, Peter, a little bit about what are the business outcomes that proMX provides that you and I have had dialogues and conversations about.
Yeah, I think so. We do have a specialty. So we are very, very focused in project operations, with Dynamics project operations. That comes from our history, being an ISV, having our own solution in place before Microsoft made a decision to go with PSA in 2015, 2016, roundabout. So, and we saw a new market coming there, and we made a decision to go with Microsoft, not to follow with our own application, with our own IP. We're going with Microsoft, and then we are integrated a lot of more functionality as it is available in the moment, or it was available, to the standard product of Microsoft. So it means we do have functionality in the area of project portfolio management. We do have the possibility to have multi-project management, multi-customer, multi-project management capabilities available. We do have a lot of different kind of time tracking functionality related to mobile time tracking with your smartphone, or even with a time tracking functionality which differs to the standard, which delivers maybe as well functionality which is needed in other countries, like for example in Germany, or and so further. And saying that, so we are delivering a lot of functionality capabilities to enhance Dynamics project operation in an area, let me say, as an add-on. But that is not alone what we are doing. Add-on is very nice. You can sell it to the whole install base. But when you are going further and you want to have a USP and you want to be more focused, and then you have to go more or less always in the direction of industry. So, and as project operations is something which is in the professional services industry, that's a huge thing. And you can say project operations is in the as a professional services is somehow also not really vertical. It is also a kind of a horizontal approach. So vertical comes then in the moment when you put your industry know-how on it. So one of the things what we have prepared for today, Brian, is to see a little bit more in the construction area, but there are also things around project and portfolio management, which are also available with a lot of our customers. And I would say it is one of the things which makes it more and more, I mean, stylish in the ways that we are also going with all these things, what I have heard, where we were listening to as a partner advisory council, and as well on the Inner Circle. Then what I mean is artificial intelligence. So we bring this into our own products. We are putting this into industries. So let me say construction, let me say public transportation and logistics at all. And as well as something special, what I remember from the old times of Dynamics, when we are talking about any relationship management, that was this grant management approach. You remember this video with showing what is XRM means and so on. And there was one with grant management and what was clouds management and so on. And we did it with, especially with grant management.
I love it, Peter. I mean, what an amazing innovation and overview. Because as an ISV, and I think that's the best thing too, is that you, your partner organization does both, does not just the repeatable IP, but also handles implementations. And I love how you talked about very vertical scenarios around construction or public transportation. But when you think about project operation or time tracking or taking resources and determining where they should be deployed and the utilization of them, that can span any type of industry that where you have resources, and to your point, professional services is a good example, where you have resources that are doing that. And so before we get to the one of my favorite questions on the customer angle, because that's where you can go deeper on maybe it's your favorite stories that you've seen as the CEO of the organization. Maybe talk about a little bit, because again, I teased out that proMX has been such a valuable partner in our ecosystem. Maybe talk a little bit about your experience and your team's experience in being part of the Dynamics in the Microsoft ecosystem, especially with ISV Connect. What has that experience been like, you being a partner inside of the Microsoft ecosystem?
And when ISV Connect is, I would say, the answer for ISV in the market. When you are working, collaborating with Microsoft, you have your own IP, then this is the way to go. That is definitely the ISV Connect stuff. And we are in there since the early beginning. Before you have ISV Connect, on the first PowerPoint slide I saw, we were already in the app source. We had already this kind of approach to sell our application via app source. Earlier times, it was not possible really to sell. So you advertise your application and then you sell it to the customer, or even to a partner and then to an end customer. So that is the idea about how to. And when you want to have the needed revenue out of your business, then there is a real thing to multiply. And the multiplication is only possible when you have partners in place. And the ISV Connect program is a brilliant place to be, to enhance with the help of Microsoft, I would say your customers, your customer count, your partner count to be visible, and all these things. We are in more or less every kind of an early adopter program with Microsoft, all around the ISV, as well as the ISV Connect program. We are inside the pay-as-you-go model in the private previews, as well as in the public previews and so on. So it is, how should I say? It is my business. It's our business. How we got successful.
And I love it. Yeah, you hit it so many in so many different ways. Great points, especially when you think about the ability for organizations like yourself to be seen in a way that customers can discover you. And you pointed out AppSource. What a great way for someone who may not know proMX, but they know that they're looking for something around time management or project management or those types of scenarios. And of course, what will come up are the many different innovations that proMX has provided, and we'll get to that towards the end, is the various impactful scenarios that proMX provides around different areas of, again, as we talked about, repeatable IP. So one of my favorite questions, Peter, is just, and you alluded to some of those use cases, but maybe talk about in a little bit more detail some of your favorite customer stories, because you've, I'm sure, seen a lot of them. What are some of the amazing customer impact that you've seen when someone recognizes, wow, I need proMX and Dynamics to solve these business outcomes, to improve business outcomes, especially when it comes around project efficiencies and resource efficiencies? Maybe you talk about some of your favorite ones, either in construction, in public transportation, or anything professional services or other things. Maybe you can spend a few minutes talking about some of those stories that you've seen where customers really were able to drive amazing business outcomes once they were utilizing deployed proMX.
Yeah, so I would like to talk a little bit maybe about public transportation, because this was also one of the things which were pretty intense with Microsoft together. So all started with Microsoft having Microsoft activities, partner activities, or ISV in place for a pre-sales approach here. So, and the customer is one of the biggest logistic companies, public transportation companies in Germany, who is responsible for the railways in Germany. So, and there are a lot of things coming together, which makes it pretty interesting for us. So we are talking about here a sustainability project and a climate protection project. So Deutsche Bahn receives approximately something like 70 billions of euros for having these climate protection laws in Germany. Makes this happen for the daily businesses. And in the first step, the Deutsche Bahn will invest out of the 17 billion, which will be now handled via project operations and our add-on. So the point is what I said with the project portfolio management stuff, it is exactly the point. So they managed all their projects all over Germany with a complete volume of 70 billion for the next 1.5 to 2 years. And then they are going across to the rest of the budget, let me say it in that way. And so that is for me very amazing. And having that kind of a project in place and the software out of that in place, so the IP is coming out of this out of this project with all our add-ons. And now we do have an industry solution which fits to all other railway companies, but also not only to the railway companies. It also fits pretty much as well to the public transportation, let me say, organizations in Germany or in Austria or in Switzerland, all over the world, let me say it this way. So when you look, for example, to Berlin, you have there a huge public transportation company. It's from the state, or maybe from the town, you can say, so it's from the state. And these guys are also pretty interested exactly in the same portfolio management stuff. So will become our next customer and other things going up. So I mentioned some customers here. Hope that is fine for you. I hope it is also fine, and pretty much sure it's fine for my customers here, but it is exactly the point. You are now in a business which comes together. And you mentioned as well construction. You think about that we are now handling construction sites on the railway track. Now it comes together that we have a portfolio management solution, which is now in combination with our construction solution. Yeah, and so you have really a huge chance to sell into a market and as well to scale into the market. And even when you are go crossover, I can as well put this together with things like, from building technology. So when it comes as well to construction sites, when you think about signals, when you think about fire protection stuff, and that goes as well exactly in the same direction with Deutsche Bahn. This goes also in the same direction when you are talking about construction. Yeah, and it's more or less building modeling stuff which comes into and so on. And now you have a toolbox of industry solution which you can combine with each other.
Yeah, I love it, Peter, because they're all building blocks. Can you think about the complexity again? I am very novice in the construction side, but you think about in general, when you think about a train track being built and all the things that have to go into that and the portfolio of what gets deployed or what are the scenarios that end up occurring, that gets very complicated across many different things. And I'm sure historically these organizations had disparate systems managing all that stuff that didn't really talk together. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that you found a way to one, impact customer outcomes, but leverage something that we have with Microsoft, but make it even better and extend those capabilities to address many of these different types of scenarios across the board. And I love how the fact that you mentioned like the amount of money that flows through systems. I can imagine that's so important to understand where resources and money being allocated to actually drive that innovation and do it in a way that is cost efficient. And maybe you could talk about, because in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit about some of the use cases and how quickly you can actually realize that value. So maybe you can talk a little bit about like some of the examples of how quick you're able to deploy some of these use cases. Because I was astonished when you mentioned just briefly how quickly one of those use cases were able to go live. that's pretty powerful. So maybe you can talk a little bit about like what have you seen in regards to seeing some of this innovation, the ability to impact that quickly to deploy these types of things.
I think with the construction solution what we won a huge project with a budget about 4 million for services and a huge budget of licenses in the States. It was a project running for 3 years, and we needed at least 3 months to close that deal because of our IP. We could transport that this is possible to do on the Dynamics platform together with our construction IP. I think that is exactly the best example how quick it could be, and we see this very often now. We have now another customer in the States. I think it was Dallas. What we won today. Yeah, and the first connect with the customers is exactly 2 months ago. First connection with the customers with Microsoft together, selling to the customer 2 months later.
I love it. That's pretty amazing. And maybe you could tease out when you uncover these conversations with our joint customers, what are they typically using? Like, is it legacy solutions? Is it manual stuff on an Excel spreadsheet, SharePoint sites? What are some of the things that you've witnessed and seen of how people were trying to do these things before they come across?
It's the same what you would tell the customers or what do you see on customers always? You see a lot of Excel spreadsheets. You see some legacy applications. Sometimes you see your own Access database or whatever. So you see everything what is on the customer side. And from one thing, what I think, which is also pretty much fitting to the Microsoft, is this kind of a hub and spoke stuff. What you're saying, putting the competitive product in the middle and put a lot of other Microsoft products around. Yeah, and from my perspective, it is a point that project operations with our IP could also be sit in the middle. Yeah, we are putting that and having on the left-hand side Salesforce as a CRM system, on the right-hand side SAP as an ERP system, and we put a project operations in the middle. So we are not dealing with the small applications. We are putting project operations, including our IP, in the middle, and that is also pretty successful approach. Now you see something as well, what maybe with how you sell it to the customers. There are a lot of other ERP systems, for example, in the world, and it is not everything is F&O and not everything is Business Central. There are a lot of, especially for us as a German, but you know how many installations of SAP you will find in the States or maybe in India as well. Yeah? That is also one of our areas where we work and where we do projects. We are not using India we are using India as a resource center, but we are doing business there. So we're doing business there, selling, and exactly also there, it's always a question about connecting PO with our own IP, if it is construction, if it is public transportation, and connect this to any existing system. Doesn't matter, ERP system, production system, whatever you have in the combination. And that is as well something where you fit into, and that is a foot in the door.
Yeah.
And then we are coming with a whole portfolio of Dynamics. We are coming with everything what we do around Azure. We are coming, so any kind of interface between two systems could be also Azure. Must not be dual, right? Could be also Azure. And on the other hand side, there's the things with all these modern work stuff as well, with Office and so on. And that is the brightness of the Microsoft One platform. You have a platform covering from lead to the invoice, everything around, and you are putting project ops in. And then you are thinking about, hey, you have heard, let me say, resource planning, capability, and resource management and skill management. There are a lot of things. Can you imagine? Not a single customer is doing it the same way, even when they are competitors. So they have completely different approaches. How and what they mean when they are talking about resource planning. That's a wide spectrum for ISVs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're getting your ISV, you put it in, you bring, for example, this kind of multi-project management for capabilities in as an add-on, and then you are having as well the chance to earn money by services, because then you fit it in the end to the customer's needs. And then you are doing this with partners all over the world. So you're giving the toolbox to be as well more and more successful, and to be as well very, very quick in the way how you can convince a customer to sign a contract with you.
Absolutely, Peter. And what a nice statement in the fact that the flexibility of allowing proMX and Microsoft to coexist with what a customer already owns is a very powerful statement, because we know, I mean, ideally, I mean, selfishly, I'd love to have everyone running all Microsoft solutions, but we know that's not always going to be the case. And your comment of how project operations with Dynamics sitting and integrating and interoperating with existing solutions that someone may already be using is a very powerful statement. So as we close up the show, and John, thank you so much for making the time. We have another person, that Denota, watching from Cincinnati, Ohio. And it's a good segue into kind of next steps and how do people learn more. And this was flashed up in the site, but I'm going to put a couple of things at the showing up on the screen. But maybe, Peter, as we wrap up the show, you can talk about how do people, what would you recommend as next steps? So someone who may come across this, either they're watching it live or watching the replay, and they're like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I have scenarios regarding project scenarios, time management, tracking resources, portfolio management. Maybe you could talk about how do people learn more? What would you recommend for people to reach out? And of course, we're doing this on LinkedIn. So if you're not connected with Peter, definitely reach out to him on LinkedIn and utilize the platform. But any other things that you would say that people should be doing as a next step or call to action, Peter?
The call to action is come in contact with us, and you have all possibilities, even with LinkedIn, where you go to App Source. You write me an email, you go on our website, whatever, you can come and ask us. If you are a partner, we are happy to support you. Project operations is a wide frame of potential business. So there is a lot of business. There are not so much partners in the world in the moment. So it is something really to grow. If you're a customer, if you have some requirements where you may think that the standard product may have some gaps, or maybe in the moment has some gaps, then as well come to us, we will help you. And we will help the customer, we help the partner to be successful. So that is exactly the point. And the best way is really to come in contact with us. We have brilliant people in all of the countries where we are having subsidiaries. We are doing that worldwide in any country. I think meanwhile, we had more than 80 or 90 countries where we did already projects or rollouts about that together with partners or as a standalone. But we need you. We need you as a partner to partner with us and to help us to be more successful as we are today.
I love it, Peter. And what a great way to end, which is using other partners. And so if you are a SI or a GSI doing deployments and you're running into these use case scenarios, what a great opportunity to partner with Peter and his team to help do these scenarios. Because again, as Peter described, I mean, what the amazing innovation that they've done across many different scenarios. And we flashed up the two sites that Peter kind of reinforced. One is, this is our website, go to proMX.net, that again offers up an amazing amount of resources and insight. And then of course, there are various impactful IP that exists within AppSource. And it's just aka.ms/proMX is a great way to capture that. So we do, like in the spirit of what we've done with many of our recent shows, we do have a great video that really showcases proMX in the construction industry at the end. But before we wrap up, Peter, any last minute call to action or things that you want to close out the show with before we end the show?
I'm happy. Simply contact me.
Okay. I love it. So thank you all for making the time on Juneteenth to listen and learn more about proMX and Peter's organization. Truly appreciate you, Peter, making the time. Again, for those of you who have come across this before, we try to do these every Monday at 8 o'clock. And we have one more before we hit the end of our fiscal year. It's hard to believe I'm saying that, but we're going to be at the end of our Microsoft fiscal year, end of June. We have one more show to close out the year. And if you are interested in any of the shows, including the repeat of this one, you can follow aka.ms/ISV Connect Live. You can follow Peter, follow myself at all if there's any questions you want to do. And I just want to, again, thank you for your time, Peter. Appreciate the partnership we have with proMX. And I want to allow people to enjoy this video. Thanks again, Peter.
Thank you very much, Brian. It was a pleasure.
Great. Thank you.